stretch. You know, hold on, I'm not done. I'm not done, please. Mr. Dardino sent me an email this past week. We exchanged a couple of emails. And he was proud that his kids were able to get through this community with a good education at our schools. By making these decisions and just stopping right now, you're not affording me that chance, Phil. You're not. You're not. We can't stop the priority. We cannot stop the priority one. We've got to find $320,000 before we leave this room to put in a non-override budget before you get to an override budget.
We don't have to do that, okay? You may want us to do that. We don't have to do that.
I understand that. It was my choice of words. I'm requesting
with
this.
respect to your idea, what would happen is if we fail, first of all, there's a concern about starting a negotiation and ruining our goal, the goal of getting the GIC, which is more important to us. It's a year off.
How much savings is there in that?
Let me continue. And through the chair, you'll have an opportunity to comment. And by taking that, and if we fail to negotiate, and we come July 1st, we're on a new budget, we would actually have to cut employees to fund that $300,000. And that's significant, and that would have to come across both town and school. The risk is too high.
Yeah, in relation to that, and again, I thought about it too, and I'm still thinking about it. But that $300,000, and again, what you'd have to do in relation to dealing with the unions and the negotiations, because of a budgetary standpoint, our new fiscal year starts July 1st. If we factor in that $300,000, then, and we don't come to a favorable conclusion with the negotiation with the unions, then $300,000 is going to have to come out of somewhere else, generally through these-salaries. Yeah, my feeling is that if that's the case, two-thirds of the employees, wait a second, Jim, two-thirds of the employees are on the school department side, one-third on the school. If that's the case, at $300,000, $200,000 of the cut would be owned by the school department and $100,000 by the general government. And if that's the case, and the unions want to stand their ground, and again, I have no problems, sitting across the table and discussing it with them, to find $200,000 on the school department side might be 3 or 4 more teachers.
No.
There are 3 or 4 more teachers. So what we're doing is we come July 1st.
So come chair, one person at a time.
So come July 1st, we're actually working against ourselves if we can't come to terms with the unions in relation to this particular matter. So that we could be cutting our nose off to spite our faces. We start to restore some of these things on the school department side. We may very well have to cut 3 or 4 teachers' positions just to fund that one line item. And on the general government side, it might be 2 or 3 positions also. So, for the sake of a year, I think a strong enough message is being sent right now to the unions that they have to sit down and negotiate in earnest, and that we have to alter the benefits program. And probably one of the best proposals to come forward would be joining the GIC, and that's going to get the deductibles up to what we're talking about. But in order to facilitate that and get it done, it has to be done before July 1st.
Well, maybe reasonableness will prevail. But by stopping at priority one, we haven't done anything to the study halls. Our kids are going to be sitting in 3 study halls a day.
I don't want to cut you off, but it's almost 11:30. There are a couple of other people who want to speak, and we've got still a fair amount of work to do to close this issue. Yes, sir.
Just a quick comment. Could we not make the assumption that long term, either we're going to negotiate successfully with the union for the general change, or that we're going to be able, if we don't get that, come back and take the $300,000 out of the copay, one or the other.
Well,
and then a year from now, 1 or 2 of those things are going to happen. And we've got to make those happen.
Actually, what happens, sir, is in the GIC, the copay changes automatically. That's part of the GIC.
But if we don't get that, can't we negotiate for the $300,000 separate and distinct? The reason we don't want to do that, the point I'm trying to make is, can we make the assumption that we're going to get at least $300,000 a year from now out of that negotiation and short-term fund the $300,000 now out of the debt or out of the debt stabilization, knowing that we've got $300,000 coming back.
We've touched
As
the
opposed to
debt,
letting
we've touched the
letting
debt,
people
the
off.
capital, the free cash, way beyond. We have gone a long way. $1.2 million of a gap has been closed, and now we're,
It will be a one-time, one-year event. You replenish it with
all right.
$300,000.
Look, I'm sorry, I'm going to cut the discussion from the floor off. Not that I, don't like the idea of getting input, but we will not finish the job we have to do if we continue to argue over this and that. We're at a point now where we're going to make some decisions, like it or not. What isn't funded in the school budget from the decisions we've made tonight clearly will be on an override question, along with some of the cuts that we've made in the community, and it's up to you. If you feel that strong about funding the school, as strong as we do, to support the override. Period. We're going to need that help.
Mr. Eno and Mr. Harris haven't made any recommendations for changes they would make in the non-override budget. I just would respectfully request, everybody else has said something.
I would disagree. I opposed the 25,000. This is as far as I would go.
He's voted, and Joe,
I voted.
Joe has said he's against 100% of it. He was very clear.
These yes.
Yes.
I'm just wondering, as a board of selectmen, as a person who represents your constituents, what do you recommend?
I recommend that all of that go to an override vote.
He's supporting the override
I'm supporting
vote
the override
to
vote for all of that.
fill the difference between what the school department is looking for and the additional funds that we've provided.
What do you do?
We just did it.
This is a
What?
contingency.
Then we're up to priority one.
What do you think the board has been doing
We're up to priority
here?
one.
What we're saying is, what we've tried to do, first of all, we closed the gap, right? So there's no further cuts. Second is, we've put out a substantial amount of additional money that got us through priority one, right? We've just done that. We voted on it. Listen to me, please. Right? We voted on that. That's as far as it appears the board is willing to go at this point. The rest of it is going to be hinging upon an override. Period.
So you're saying to me, and I want to make sure it's clear, and I'm tired and I apologize, I'm probably not the only one. Right now, the school has been funded $870,000 to go all the way through their 3 priorities, and now anything additional is through an override?
Yeah, they got through priority. Are we not $82,000 short of it?
No, they got more than
I'm cutting off discussions from the floor. You're certainly welcome to stay and listen, but we will not be able to finish this and bring it to a conclusion if we continue to debate this issue at this point.
Yeah, we're going to go down the list here, the overrides, the override.
Right, we need to know what we would put on an override question. I think this is very important.
It is.
Can I request that we stay within the parameters of that while we're discussing this?
Yes.
Can we back, Mr. Chairman, can we back up to 184? I'd like to hear a proposal from Mr. Valakonis if any of the 184, the original 184, should also be added back into the override.
Greg, would you comment on that, please? The
slide
slide I have for it is so hard to see.
Greg, do you need that? I have it here.
No, I haven't. What time to consider?
I would say that out of the $184,000 in cuts that we made, I'd like to sit down with my department heads and discuss what their priorities are. However, in terms of my priorities going forward, I would look at the Human Resources Director going to full-time at almost $15,000 as being one of my top priorities. I can only say that because it's my department. I think the other ones, I'd like to chat with my department heads before I can give you a firm recommendation.
Mr. O'Leary.
You know, as far as that $184,000, it was part of that 184 was the $34,000 or $35,000 for a cruiser, which we just moved over to free cash, so we're funding it anyway. To me, I'd rather have it in the override, have it funded, and make sure we have free cash in the bank. You know, if the override fails, we're still going to buy the cruiser. You know, we're still going to buy the cruiser. You just wouldn't have to spend it out of the free cash. The rest of it is just reduced because of, you know, salary changes because of personnel turnover. Those are no-brainers. Yeah. Those are no-brainers. Again, fund travel, forget it. Supplies request, forget it. But the cruiser, my pencil. Again, mechanics capital and fire alarm capital, those are essential things that we should be doing for the operation of the fire department and mechanics. We could $5,000 that we cut out, it should be included. Level fund snow and ice request, that's going to come off the top anyway. But heating, ventilating, and air conditioning repairs to town buildings, absolutely $25,000. And then the seasonal employees for road and street and cemetery in the summertime, absolutely. And then the rest of it, forget about it. Because, I mean, that's 35.
So can we let the town administrator, Mr. List, consistent with what Mr. O'Leary said?
Oh, we can, Greg, you could give us, Greg?
About $63,000. It's about $63,000. I think that's the way I see it.
All right, I'm going to, well, on Monday night, we'll have an absolute number, but it's about 63K. I want to get to a rough amount for the override question. Okay, so now we're on this 708 number. And I take the
Non-exempt debt.
the 150, the 39,
Overtime.
These items you're putting on the override?
On the override.
On, okay.
404, 223, 820. Recreation,
absolutely.
45, 495.
And then it's just, are we including the police, fire, DPW overtime cuts?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So the rest are done. Okay, go to the next slide, Mark.
Could you review those loudly? I'm sure that no one could hear you.
All right. What appears to be the recommendation is to take the non-exempt debt, the 150 that we're taking out of the stabilization fund, and put it on the override question to fund it directly.
Right. And which other items on there would be on there?
The 39,407, which are the DPW police overtime. We would give the town an opportunity to keep solid waste as it's currently funded.
So you're going to put the trash on?
The trash would be back. They're going to pay for it one way or the other. Right? Recreation, 45,495. That's it. Yes, sir.
Might I just make one comment? It's going to be very difficult to get an override passed. We just went through pain putting cuts in place. As a taxpayer, you're going to ask me to increase my taxes so you don't have to take money out of the savings account. I'm telling you, that's going to be a tough call. You're going to run the risk of losing all of it for putting back some of these items. If I'm going to increase my taxes, I want you to spend it. I don't want you to put it in the stabilization account. Especially when the very cent of money is going to be here probably in October for $1 million, and that's going in that account.
I think it's important, Mr. Chairman, that...
I think you run the risk of failing an override if we start putting too much out there now.
Mr. Chairman, just in response, I think Mike pointed out the other night, and I've heard from other people, based on his comments, the people who are watching. Of course, they're not watching tonight, but we have privately. I think it's very important that people understand that this debt stabilization fund is very forward-thinking in an effort to maintain taxes at a lower rate. This is actually going to save them money in the long run by being able to fund capital expenditures and projects without it impacting the tax rate. And I think it's important for us to have that kitty, to have it there, and if it takes as part of the education